everything in my life is interpreted from the angle of being a psychic and witch. I manifested success. I manifested my dream life, and I manifested my husband, my kids, and whatever money I needed at the time. My name is Inbaal. I'm 49 years old and I live in Home Firth in Yorkshire. I'm a full-time psychic tarot reader and witch, and I have been that for over 23 years now. It's a dream for me to have this as my full-time job. I was raised in Israel in a very ordinary household. My mom was an arts and crafts teacher. My dad had his little business, and no one believed in anything. So I wasn't raised with a spiritual perspective. I wasn't even raised within a particularly Jewish belief. So we followed all the Jewish traditions growing up, but we weren't very godly. I went to live in Greece for a little while, and in Greece, everyone reads something. So you'll either read the tarot. If you don't read the tarot, you'll read playing cards or coffee grounds or palmistry. And in Greece, I picked up some playing cards at first and started reading them, and was quite surprised that they were accurate and they could tell me what was coming up. And then I started reading some Greek cards and eventually worked my way up to the tarot. And I'd go back to England, where I'd spend the winters and just sit with my tarot deck. I was so in love with the imagery and with the information that it gave me. And I would practice. I'd practice on myself. I'd practice on my friends. And one time, my friend had a boyfriend far away, and my tarot cards told her that he was cheating on her, and told her with who. We thought it must be ridiculous. He was so devoted, and he was the one doing the pursuing. And then he rang her and confessed to the cheating with the person that the tarot indicated. And she said to me, "You have to do this. There is no one that can do it like you. You should go and work in the market." And I thought it was kind of scary to do it. But I also thought, if I don't do it at 25, it'll be much scarier to do it at 30. I had no dependents, no job, nothing to lose. And so I took my deck of cards and got started. That's a long time ago now, and never looked back. My passion is tarot cards. And so for the most part, when I start a reading, I will lay out some tarot cards and see how they relate to the person's life, to their love life, to their career, to their future, to their past, because there's a lot that can be gleaned from knowing the past as well. And when I read the cards, it's not just their like book meanings that will come to me. I'll get a feeling, I'll get a sense. I might feel things in my body that will relate to the person. If they're in front of me, I might see things around them, either the aura, but more likely I'll see a change in the curtain behind them, or a bird soaring as they speak. And all of those little signs from the universe will conspire together to assist me in analyzing the person. For example, if there's a tarot card that shows disappointment for the end of a relationship, then you know that the person in front of you is experiencing disappointment at the end of a relationship. But then your own experiences might bubble up and furnish further detail. With my friend whose boyfriend cheated on her, the reason we knew who it was is because it was a best friend. And I was able to say, does he have a best friend who is female and who has blonde hair? Because that card specifically had blonde hair. And she confirmed that that was the case. And so that was the person. I primarily work with a deck of cards called the Thoth Tarot. where we've got beauties such as the priestess. Isn't it stunning? The moon. Look how beautiful. Lots of ancient Egyptian imagery, lots of astrology, some Hebrew letters. We've got fortune. You might know it as the Wheel of Fortune. Not all the names are always the same. The sun. So I primarily read from this deck because I'm a very visual person. I love the images. I feel like they speak to me, but I primarily teach from this deck. This is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and it is a classic. It's the first deck that was printed, that still remained in print to this day. It was the first publicly produced deck that had images for all the small cards, and it's also the deck that you'll see used in adverts and Bond movies. That is the actual classic. And here we have the Chariot. So my captions here are in German because I was given that by a German friend. We've got the Emperor. Look how manly, look how masculine he is. He's wearing an armor, don't you know? We've got that's the card of Aquarius. Can you see why? Do you know Aquarians? The old use of tarot cards was not to foretell the future. The old use of tarot cards was to help the court poets write their poems to the court ladies. It's actually a tool to help alleviate writer's block. And before that, it was a game. So the different planets and the different systems that we observe in the sky were seen thousands of years ago to impact our daily lives. Star signs are the description of the planetary constellation that was most influential on you at the time of your birth. Now, I say thousands of years ago, but until a couple of hundred years ago, you needed to be able to have a good working knowledge of astrology in order to be a doctor or a medic or whatever it was in those days, because diagnosis of diseases, both mental and physical, was heavily reliant on astrology as well. So, for example, the different star signs relate to different parts of the body, starting with the top: Aries, the head, Taurus, the neck, Gemini, the shoulders, ending with Pisces for the feet. And if you are a Pisces like me, you probably have feet that are very prone to soreness, twisted ankles, can't be trusted on heels. The emotions were seen as relating to the four classical elements: earth, air, fire, or water. Where water people are very emotional, where fire people are very active, where earth people are all about stability, and air people are the thinkers. So astrology and astrological concepts have been woven into lots of different sciences and parts of our culture, but it's just seen as esoteric now because we feel like as a society maybe we've moved away from having to rely on the planets. That to me is a bit bananas because the planets do influence us. We only have to go as far as the moon and see how it influences the tides. I really believe that manifesting works, and I've manifested everything in my life. When I was 25, I needed a specific amount of money in order to go on a specific holiday at a specific date, and I used to recite affirmations, 9 affirmations 3 times a day. I am getting this money by that date. That wasn't all the affirmations, there were 9 of them. But they were all positive self-talk that kind of heightened my energy and empowered me. And I totally by chance or by magic found my way to that exact amount of money by that exact date. When I was 30, I decided that it would be a good idea to maybe find a good relationship. And so I manifested a specific relationship with specific hair color, somebody that works in a specific industry, and he's over there trying not to cough too loudly, not to interfere with with our interview. When it was time for me to have my children, I was a little bit infertile and a little bit ineligible for fertility treatment on account of body weight. And so I did magic to have the children. Would that magic have worked without physical assistance? Of course not. Magic works with nature. It doesn't work against nature. That would make no sense. But the same emphasis that a person from a different walk of life would place on prayer or on blessings from a holy person, that exact same type of faith is what I have around magic and manifesting, and I still do it all the time. The most common question by far is, how do I get my relationship back on track? When we get to the end of a relationship, we anchor back. And when a relationship just starts to go a little bit wrong, we want to get it back on track. And when a relationship is actually over, during that mourning period. But that's not even the entire truth, because that used to be the most popular question. Since the economy has gone upside down, and I'm saying since the economy has been it's been 15 years. For the last 15 years, there's been a lot more questions around finances, around money, around job opportunities. And that is actually a really interesting point to make of how the esoteric space had changed the conversation around money since nobody's got any. When I started out doing spells, doing manifesting, doing affirmations, for the most part, you would do spells for world peace or to find love, very popular. And talking about money at the time appeared very unspiritual and even a little vulgar. Whereas now, you get any two witches together, it's a money spell. It's a money spell because everyone has had enough. And those of us that remember the days before, like 2007, 2008, remember how nice it was to just be able to have some when you wanted some. The most important thing for women to know within their astrological chart is their moon sign. The moon is a specific ruler for women because gynecological systems are connected with the moon. But it doesn't have to be biological. If you're a woman who is differently constructed in there, still the moon. And the moon are all our internal thoughts and kind of our hidden personality, the way that only our nearest and dearest know how we are. The sun sign, which is what is the star sign, is how we are out and about. It's the persona that everyone knows, but the moon is who you are at home, and that is very specifically the feminine astrological body. I want to say planet, but the moon is not exactly a planet.